Good evening, all. I follow a lot of medical professionals and alternative health professionals online because it keeps me humble, and as far as there are many people out there that know a lot more than I do. But it also reminds me to not try and talk about something that I don't really know much about. And that's what happened when one of the medical professionals tried to talk about an alternative therapist who was talking about sunlight and getting morning daylight into your eyes and the benefits of sunlight exposure. What did the medical professional do? The medical professional fell back onto kind of studies from the 1970s and whatever about the sun being dangerous. Obviously forgot to mention the fact that actually sunlight exposure has now been shown to activate a gene that suppresses around about 100 different cancers, is good for mitochondrial health, is good for depression, has been shown to be good for metabolic disorders, has been shown to be good for some cardiovascular disorders, blood flow. So there are a large amount of benefits to be had through sunlight and daylight exposure. Now, what this medical professional took the greatest kind of issue with and showed that they don't have enough experience or knowledge in that particular area was different types of wavelengths occurring at different times and having a different effect on the body. And what you need to understand is morning daylight is completely different to midday daylight. It's completely different to, which is completely different to evening daylight. Because the ratios of the wavelengths of light differ throughout the day. It doesn't just stay as one thing. There's a reason why people say out of the sun in the midday, because it has the highest concentration of UVB. So UVB is very beneficial for us if we want to synthesize vitamin D from the sun. But in order to do that, we need to expose larger areas of our body, and the amount that you need to be exposed and the time differs on your whether you've got dark hair, dark skin, dark eyes, or light skin, light hair, light eyes. The amount of cloud cover there is, your latitude, the amount of skin cover there is, the time of day there is, so the height of the sun or the angle of the sun. So there are so many things to take into consideration that people just don't do. This is just a sweeping statement of the sun is bad. It's not. Now, can the sun be bad? Yeah, if you're an idiot and you go out and just stay in the sun from 10 until 4 and don't expect to burn. You're exposing parts of the skin that have never seen the sun for the last 6 months, of course. But what you need to understand is that your body has mechanisms in place already. And these mechanisms rely on different wavelengths of light to tell it what time of day it is and to prepare your skin for the oncoming rush of UVB, which occurs, around lunchtime, but again, depending on the latitude. And so the importance of getting out in the sunlight, getting out in the daylight in the morning, starts to help to prepare your body in various different ways. But in the morning time, if you can expose your skin in the morning to morning sunlight, then what you find is you have a very high relative percentage of infrared and red, which helps protect the skin and helps prepare the skin going forward. And then you start to add in some UVA, again depending on the latitude, the time, the timing varies, and then you finally get into UVB. And what you need to understand is that each time these wavelengths of light do different things in your body. And so understanding that getting out in the morning is not just good for your eyes, but it's also good for preparing your skin to take on the UVB later on. The evening light also does the opposite. So it calms you down, and it actually has some kind of anti-inflammatory properties, some skin repairing and healing and rejuvenation properties. There's a reason why I sell the red and infrared lights that I do, because as well as all the kind of physiological benefits with regards to mitochondrial function and pain and inflammation, they're also shown to be effective in preparing the skin for sun exposure and also repairing. So just preparing the skin for sun exposure and repairing the skin post sun exposure. And so there are so many benefits to sun exposure, and I talked about the longitudinal study of Swedish women that was quite conclusive in the more time you spent outside in the daylight, the lower your all-cause mortality, i.e. the lower your risk of dying of any cause. So the more time you spent outside, the lower your chances of dying of any cause. And that's pretty good stuff. And this was a longitudinal study. I forget over how many years, but it was many thousands of women as well that did this. So just because someone has MD or whatever after their name doesn't mean that they are an expert on all things. So sunlight, if you are sensible, you can really reap the rewards of appropriate sunlight exposure, appropriate daylight exposure, to make your body feel better, function better, and also, as we said, as a protective mechanism. So this went on for much longer. It was meant to be like a 2-minute video, but I just started talking, so I apologize about that. Anyway, have a great evening. Control your environment now. Control your evening environment. And I wish all the Norwegian people that follow my page and watch this video a happy 17. Mai tomorrow. A happy 17th of May.